Let us now look at troubleshooting the printed circuit board with the digital multimeter. We have explained this before, okay? So you can check our earlier, on this same program, okay? You can check our earlier discussion, okay, on printed circuit board. So let's just kind of review or revise some of the things that we said. Okay, there are two major tests that you can do on your printed circuit board, which is the live test and the dead test. So in the dead test, you can test for continuity. Okay, and then you can test all of those components, knowing the way the component is functioning. You know what to expect from each of these components. So you can test for continuity, test for resistances, okay, and then test for short. Okay, so like this one now, this is the power transformer. You can test the resistance of the winding, test for continuity, and test for short to ground. You can test the continuity of this fuse, okay? These are variable resistors, okay? So you can check for the resistances, okay, to see that the value match what is written on the resistor. These are resistors. You see the color codes, okay? That gives the value of the resistance of the resistor, okay? So you can put those codes together to get the value, and then you do your resistance reading. If it's not giving you that value or something close to that value, it means that that resistor is faulty, okay? Then you also have these are ICs, transistors. So we have the NPN and the PNP transistors. So if you are reading the NPN transistors, you put the positive probe to your P terminal and then your negative probe to your N terminal. So you expect to have reading. Then when you reverse it, there won't be any reading. That will tell you that that transistor is okay. Or if your meter is designed to test the transistor, it's just for you to put the three legs of those transistors into the three slots meant for either PNP or NPN. So if it is NPN, okay, if it is PNP, you put your negative probe in the middle terminal, okay, and your positive probe either in any of those two. So you are supposed to have readings. Then when you reverse it, it will not read, okay? So that will give us an idea as to whether that transistor is good. So you test for continuity on these PCB lines, okay? These printed lines, okay? You test for continuity. Then for capacitors, you can test it by disconnect it, and then you tell if your meter is testing capacitor, or you use your ohms range, okay, selection to test it. Okay, so when you test it, it will charge the capacitor, and as it's charging, it will read, and then it will drop the reading. Okay, to go back to zero. Then when you reverse your hands, it will do the same thing and go back to zero. But it will not give you the microfarad reading of that transistor capacitor. So if your digital multimeter is designed to test the capacitance of the capacitor, then you put it, it's just like this two slot that is used for LED test. Okay, so you test it. When you test it, it will give you the microfarad reading. So you compare it with what is written there, whether it's the same or the value have changed. If the value have changed, you remove it. So these are diodes. You take it to your normal diodes test, okay, selection, and then you test the diodes, okay. So you see that appreciating, these are resistors. You see that appreciating, these are capacitors too, okay. So you see that appreciating the component and how they work and what to expect from them in your with your digital multimeter is important for your troubleshooting the printed circuit board. Okay, then the other test that you can do is the live test. So in a live test, what you do basically is called voltage tracing. Okay, you know that AC comes into this transformer, so you test for the input and be sure that you have that AC voltage. Then the output too, if it's a step down transformer, what is coming out of the transformer, let's assume it's 12 volts or 24 volts. That 24 volts, you are supposed to have it at the output of this transformer to be sure that the transformer is okay. So if you have that output, it means that the transformer is good. If you are not having it, the transformer is faulty. So after the voltage has been rectified, okay, then you test the rectifier circuit too. Before the rectifier circuit, you have 24 volts DC, AC, I mean to say. Then the output of the rectifier circuit is supposed to be 24 volts DC. If you are not having it, it means that the rectifier circuit is bad, okay? Or you keep blowing fuse, it means that the rectifier circuit is already bridging, okay? That is when the fuse will be blowing, especially if the transformer is good, okay? To be blowing every now and then. So if the rectifier circuit is good, then you can do your voltage tracing, okay, on each of these terminals. So all of these ICs, if you have the data sheet, you know what to expect from each leg, the voltage that is entering and the signal that is coming out, the voltage signal that is coming out from each leg. So you take it to the DC voltage selection of your digital multimeter and then probe each of these legs to see that the signal that is designed to come out from those legs, they are what you are having at those legs, okay? So all of these are transistors. You also do the same test to ascertain their functionality. So is troubleshooting PCB is a real work. You will agree with me, okay? But with your knowledge and patience, okay, it will be very easy for you to figure out. But if you have been able to ascertain that the function is with this board, of course, the entire module can be changed if it is replaceable. If not, you have to look for the component in this circuit board that is causing the problem. So that is how you use the digital multimeter to test your printed circuit board. But remember, in all that we have been saying, there is no replacement for your knowing what to expect from this component. Each and every component. So you test the capacitor. You can also use the resistance range or the continuity to test your capacitors, okay? So on those resistors, it means that you may need to, or you will need to remove the capacitor from the circuit board for you to test it correctly. So when you remove the capacitor from the circuit board, if you put the positive terminal at one end and then the negative terminal at the other end, you see that it will charge and discharge. You see it read to a level and then it will drop back, okay? Then when you interchange your hands, it will also do the same, okay? So that will tell you that the capacitor is working, but it will not give you the right capacitance value, okay? But the digital multimeter at this level will give you the capacitance value. So if it has changed, you will know that the capacitor is already failing, okay? So as you can see on this digital multimeter, here is used for LED test. These are your LEDs, okay? So remember that LEDs, they are still diodes. You can also use the diode test here to test the LEDs, okay? And that is what you also use to test this rectifier, the rectifier bridge when the circuit is. So you know that the positive and the negative end, when your red probe is on the positive of the output of your rectifier and the negative is at the negative, it will give you some reading. Then when you interchange your hands, there will be no reading. Then on the phases, you don't expect to have any reading on those phases, okay? So you see that understanding what to expect from all of these components is very important for you to verify the functionality of all of these components. So on these ICs, okay, the data table, okay, of the IC will tell you what to expect from each leg or each output of the IC. So with your digital multimeter in your DC voltage range, okay, when you have your input power and your transformer rectifier, they are all working. The output on that leg, you can test it with the negative probe on the common that is on the ground, that is the negative terminal of your this power supply. And then the red probe, you can use it to test the output of those ICs, okay, integrated circuits. So that will give you an idea as to whether the IC is working properly or not. So that is how you use the digital multimeter to test a printed circuit board, okay? Or in this case now, we are looking at a DC power supply circuit.